Good evening and welcome to One Sports. We got another fascinating show for you today. We got a few legends on the show. Tonight's topic is basketball. Firstly, welcome to everybody who's watching in England, in Europe, all around the world, and some superstars in the studio today, aren't we?
We have some amazing guests today, and we're grateful that they joined us in the studio. And we have some guests online as well today from the world of basketball. They've played it, they've managed it, they've coached it, they've developed it. We've got all of it today in the show. So please, the number for the show today is 0203 515 1764. That's the studio hotline. And we're on Facebook Live at One Sports. So if you want to go online, do leave a comment online. We'll pick it up here in the studio. And if you've got any questions for our guests, who Abu's going to introduce now, we'll get them to answer your questions.
Yeah, so starting on my left here, we got DeAndre Liggins, a professional basketball player. DeAndre, you've been here 2 weeks, just signed for the London Lions. Welcome to the show, DeAndre. Hope you're liking the weather.
Pretty rainy right now, but I can deal with it. I'm from Chicago, so Chicago is pretty cold, so I can't complain.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming, John. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And on my right, we got Sadij Sawa, who's a former professional basketball player. I think one of the first Asians to play in the game. And for Birmingham Bullets, Saj. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
and
you.
you sort of drove from Birmingham as well.
Yeah. Thanks for the traffic, but yeah.
And then also online, we've got Vince McCauley. Vince is the head coach and also owner of the London Lions. Done some amazing work. Vince, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hope it's not too rainy down there. You're in Milton Keynes at the moment?
Yes, it's we're used to it. It's August, we expect sunshine, we get rain, whatever it takes.
It's a typical British summer. You should be used to it now by now, Vince.
The good news about British weather, whatever you see outside, it's going to change soon.
Exactly. Right, then we'll kickstart the show, guys, and I'll start off with Vince. Vince, firstly, obviously you've been involved in basketball for a very long time. I want to start off with a question. Obviously you've invested a lot in the game, and you won the league with the London Lions as well. Amazing achievements. It's obviously quite difficult, we know, especially in the world of sports business. How do you sort of maintain it, and what keeps you motivated?
Wow.
Straight into the deep
That's
end.
a huge question, I think I'd actually flip it the other way in terms of what keeps you motivated, because you need what keeps you motivated to be able to go on and try and be successful as best as you can. But for me, basketball is a huge part of my life, if not all of my life to some extent. And basketball was a huge, a huge thing that's kept me on the right track. I was very fortunate to meet with the legendary Jimmy Rogers, who was my coach in Liverpool at Liverpool ATAC before starting the Brixton Top Cats. And, Jimmy came into my life when I was a man of about 17, 18 years old. And, all the philosophies of basketball, camaraderie, teammates, accountability, responsibility, all those kind of things. Those are life skills, and that's what keeps me motivated, because I want to give back. I want the youngsters that I get a chance to coach or be around our club to grow up as young men and try and do the right thing. So that's my motivation. But in terms of keeping the business of basketball going, that's tough in the UK. Basketball is not football, rugby, or cricket. It's not that kind of a game. And unfortunately, we don't get some of the support we deserve, both financially, emotionally, media, all of that kind of stuff. But where there's a will, there's a way. And what we've been able to do, both obviously in Milton Keynes before we moved to London in 2012, is engage our local communities. We've taken young boys and girls, right up onto the England stage, and we continue to develop that. The professional side, obviously, I think our move to an Olympic-sized venue in terms of the Copper Box is huge, because that's the kind of stage that we want British basketball to be on. And since we've been there, I think the acquisition of Justin Robinson as one of our best British players to come back, people have begun to feel the vibe of London basketball, and I think that's what's driven us forward.
And obviously moving to the Olympic Stadium after Olympics was a massive move, but one that it's benefited not just your club as a basketball entity, but basketball as a whole for East London. I know lots of schools are involved in your project, lots of community programs are involved, and the club's been at the heart of that.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, for me, I think DeAndre will testify to this through his career as an NCAA college basketball player. My vision always was that not so much that we had to be like the NBA, but we had to be like a bit of a hybrid between college basketball and a professional basketball, where, you know, if you look at, you know, DeAndre went to Kentucky. Now, Kentucky, there's nothing else to do in Kentucky but support the Kentucky basketball team, you know. So when you go there, you know, the players, you know, as you know, they're not allowed to earn money until they become professionals. So, you know, if you need some extra food, you go down the road because so-and-so's daughter used to go to the university, they look after you. If you need a car, you go over there. And Billy's son used to go to the university, they look after you. So the community becomes responsible for the team and looks after the team, whilst the team performs for the community. I think we get that balance right. That's what we had as the Lions basketball team. That's something that we've always prided ourselves over, to be a real part of the fabric of the community. I think that's what we are.
Okay, and obviously we have Deontay, who signed for you this season. He's been in the UK for less than 2 weeks now. How does it feel to come to the UK and prepare for your season in the British Basketball League compared to where you've been and played?
I feel great. It's a great opportunity for me, and I think the main thing for me that I love, that they embrace me, and I embrace the opportunity to be here. So me coming from Kentucky, playing in the NBA, all that's cool, but right now at this stage of my life, I want to be embraced, and this is the perfect opportunity for me to come and showcase my talent and help this team accomplish big things.
And what brought you to London Lions? Anywhere you could have gone across the world, you've come to London and play for London Lions. What attracted you to that?
Like I said, I want to make London basketball and British basketball more noticeable. So when I come here, people gonna know, like, oh, that's DeAndre Liggins. He played in the NBA. He got a high resume, and things like that. So that was a big deal for me to come here and try to put London on to achieve on the top level.
Okay, Sad, you've been in the game for a long time. Being obviously a British basketball player, I think you played for England, didn't you? Or close to?
Made the squad once, but never made the team, unfortunately.
Okay, so obviously with DeAndre coming in, it's massive, you know, for London Lions, massive for the country. You know, how can we actually make basketball a lot more popular? For example, in the States, the NBA, you know, is massive, isn't it?
Huge. You know, I think basketball, as Vince said, has had a rough deal in the UK. It's a fantastic family sport. That's the first thing I've got to say. It's a fantastic family sport, and since I've been involved in it, it's always been somewhere where I could take my family. Yeah, there's other sports I don't want to mention, you know, diminish others, but you know, where I wouldn't necessarily take my family because of the atmosphere. But this has been a great family sport, and I really do think it gets a raw deal. I mean, Vince being in the facility that he's going to be in with the team and the players that he has got now, and some of the players that have been in the past throughout the history of UK basketball, playing in places like the Men Arena, playing at the NEC, and so on. It's had a real impact on many people, but then it just seems to have every 2 or 3 years, it just seems to have a dip, you know, and it just disappears, and there's nothing much happening, and suddenly, there's, you know, and something like with DeAndre coming on board, being from the NBA, it's going to be a lot of hype around that, and I think a lot of people will be drawn back into basketball simply because of the CV and the resume that
is this
DeAndre
a great
has.
Opportunity for the commercial partners to come on board?
Without a doubt. I mean, Vince will know more about commercial partners and so on and so forth. I've never really had that opportunity to do that. I know around the sports development side of basketball, it'll open up more doors, more schools wanting to be involved because of the types of players that maybe could come into their school and inspire the children within those schools through those teams. But I'm pretty sure it will open up doors. You know, if you've got the caliber of DeAndre coming into the league and playing up and down the country with the different teams, of course it's going to open up doors, and commercial entities want to be part of that, and it'll be up to Vince and the different managers up and down the UK to kind of exploit that situation to make the best of it.
And Vince, just on that, I know you do a lot of work with schools, and I personally sat with you in meetings, and we've tried to develop, when you first come to the Olympic Stadium, trying to get schools involved. We know the funding is not there for school development and basketball. A lot of our schools are playing schools basketball, but they're not playing national league or schools leagues. They just haven't got facility, they haven't got the coaching or the coaches available for that. How can that be improved, Vince, in an area like London, where basketball, let's be honest, it's not your football or your cricket or your athletics just yet in schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation. I mean, London is responsible for over 50% of the registrations for Basketball England. So, you know, half the people who are registered to play basketball are in London. So there's a lot of people in London who want to play. Let's remind ourselves that basketball is the #2 sport for boys behind football, and it's the #2 sport for girls behind netball. So the desire for the youth to play is right there. Not only because it's a cool sport, but it's a fun sport to actually physically play. You can play by yourself. You can just get a ball. You don't need necessarily to have a whole bunch of people. Whereas, obviously, we want them to be competitive when the kids to start earlier. So one of the things that we do through our foundation is obviously we go right from the age of 6 years old. We have open sessions at the Copper Box where young kids, boys and girls, can come in there and get a taster for the game. From there, we have our partnerships with the Youngblood Lions. So the Youngblood Lions are our junior program. And we go from the age of under 12 right through to under 18. We've got some sensational young players in there at the moment who are already representing the country. And the pathway is the key. So by having our junior program, we also now have an academy program with New City College, which is based at the Hackney campus, where we have currently about 82 young boys and girls aged 16 to 19 who are part of the academy. And that structure is around having basketball 10 hours a week as part of their curriculum, as well as whatever they're studying within their BTECs or their A-levels or whatever they're studying. Now, of course, on top of that now, we then have a great partnership with the University of East London. So we provide a lot of the coaches for the university teams. They're part and parcel of what we do. So in fact, some of our professional players, this year, for the coming Champions League season, we've signed Joshua Hibbert. Well, Josh is going to continue his master's degree at the University of East London. So we've created a pathway within London that can take a youngster right from the age of 12 right up to being a professional basketball player with the London Lions men's team or the women's team. So if we can now expand that sideways so the numbers increase, that's the target and that's what we've got to aim for. That's why we need local government funding, community funding, mayor's office funding, Sports England, whatever you want to call it. Those are the things that allow it to expand exponentially, and we can actually get the numbers going forward. And I think one point I'd like to make about the fact that DeAndre is here also is that it's important for young boys and girls to look at basketball as a route for their employment, as a job. And I think when you look at the guys that we have signed this season to try and make a challenge at the Champions League, you clearly can see that we've got top-level basketball players here who are making their living playing basketball. I think that's what the youngsters need to see so that more and more of them want to play.
Of course.
Vince, what's on your subject? Obviously, we've got a lot of basketball courts, a lot of hoops all over the place in every estate. What can the government or Sport England or UK Sport and others do to help basketball to achieve the real heights, such as it's happening at the United States?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be tough to rival what's going on in the United States. So we put that to one side because the NBA, is the equivalent of, say, the Premier League in football. And so, look at the leagues in the football leagues in, say, Canada or even in America. It's going to be tough for them to rival the quality of the Premier League. What we've got to look at is, look across this way instead of looking towards it. If we look this way towards Europe, and we look at Spain, and we look at Italy, and we look at France, and we say our athletes, our young boys and girls, they are better athletes than the Spanish and the French and the German. So we already know we have the raw materials. What the funding will allow us to do is, let me give you an example. Right? I'll give you an example. So while we had the team in Milton Keynes, we had a family who had two young boys. One of the boys played for the Lions junior team. He was only 17 or 16, and his brother played for the England rugby team at the age of 16. So both of them got selected for England. So the basketball player, we all had to fundraise for him, raise some money. We all helped them get to the airport. His mom and dad couldn't go with him. We managed to fly him to a tournament. It was in Italy. All the basketball team all bunked up on bunk beds in the school, and they played the game, and they beat the Italians, and they came back. And that was the journey of this young 16-year-old basketball guy. Now, the rugby guy, the rugby union invited his mom and dad to come with them to the tournament. This was in France. They had a limousine pick him up the day before at home, take him to the airport hotel next to the Heathrow airport. They stayed overnight. They got a flight across to France. They lost horrendously. They came back, and that's the life of two brothers in two different sports. So you can see that, we don't have those lavish kind of funds in basketball versus something like rugby. And until those kind of things are balanced, we're slightly skewed because we've always campaigned for fair funding. We're not saying don't give rugby money or don't give netball money or don't give football money. What we're saying is let's be fair. If you're going to be fair and give them something, then give us something, and let's see what we can do with that.
And just before we come to our studio guest, Don't forget, guys, 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline, and we are on Facebook at One Sports if you want to join us live online. Andrew, just coming back to you in terms of your basketball career, when you started playing from high school and going into your career, professional career, what was the challenges that you faced in America?
First, I had to deal with my brother passing away at an early age. Had to deal with seeing violence, drugs being sold as a child growing up. I had to deal with a lot of things and face a lot of adversity growing up. So that's like a big deal, and I seen a lot of bad stuff growing up.
So it's quite similar to what our children and youngsters in London are now facing: knife crime, violence. You know, it's very similar to the background that you've come from, and you've played the NBA. You're now signing for London Lions, and you can only be a role model for those around you. So thank you for joining London Lions and coming here to do that.
Appreciate it.
Sajid, how will this inspire some of the? We have a lot of a black community that play in London basketball, and the Russian community and the Eastern European. But within our Asian community, there's not a huge profile of basketball. How can we increase that? Even though we've got people that play in school level, but they don't take it on.
Yeah. I mean, I came from the Manchester setup, as I mentioned earlier, and I think at the time I was the only Asian playing within the Bolton, Bury, and Manchester setups. And that's the time of some fantastic players like Yorick Williams and so on and so forth. Those are the young people that I used to play with who went on to play at the same level as DeAndre and in the English and European leagues. And so those are really what became my role model. So my thing was, if they can do it, why can't I? So that was my self-drive to if they can do it, why can't I? But I think I would say I had people like Vince in my life. So I had at the time the England women's coach, a guy called Victor Schofield. I'm not sure if Vince remembers that name.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so he was my school coach, and I was always in trouble at school. So DeAndre saw bad stuff. I was the bad stuff, unfortunately, at school. And he kind of took me. Basically, back in the day, there was no safeguarding. He would lock me in a gym, and said, come, I'm going to sort you out. So I had these really good role models in Jeff Watson and Jeff Jones. So these role models kind of saw the best in me, not in what other people saw in me, the worst in me. So they took a bad Asian lad and said, look, come and do this, give it a go. And that's how I got into it.
I mean, what challenges did you face? So especially as an Asian player.
So as an Asian
We're
player,
looking at a lot of players in basketball. They are 6'5".
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm 6 foot, so I'm not that far behind. I think the biggest issue that we face as Asians is culture. Culture in the sense of what do we do when we finish school? We go to the mosque, right? So we'd finish school and the next 2 hours is mosque. I'm just glad I had parents who knew if they'd continued in that way that I was going to go into some crazy direction. So they kind of thought, well, he's doing that, and when he's doing that, he's nice and calm, because I had these really good influences around me. So they allowed or had that bit of flexibility with me to allow me to go and allow me to succeed. So you've taken a 22-stone child who lost 10 stone, played in a National League, Division 2, 3, 1, and as far as I'm concerned, I've succeeded. Yeah, for me, that's a fantastic journey. For an Asian man coming from that community, it's a fantastic journey. But I think now, in this day and age, there's many more Asians, many more Muslims, many more people from Somalia, Bangladesh, Pakistan now playing the game, because I think others have broken the mold and said, no, it's okay to play. Okay. It's okay to play basketball or any other sport that may be. And I think in London, you might find the numbers are a lot more compared to up north.
I'm just going to go to Vince, because I know we got you for a few more minutes, Vince. Vince, in terms of what can we do, or what can be done to promote basketball more in England, and what are the challenges, would you say?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of what has to be done is, we have a lot of word of mouth among people. Yeah. You mentioned earlier on about it being a family-friendly sport, which clearly it is hugely competitive. I think one of the big things that we're trying to do is obviously to step up the level by entering the Basketball Champions League. Yeah. I don't think a team from the UK has not won a game in Europe for over 21 years. And in London, we have so many people from other European countries for whom basketball is a passion. People from Lithuania, people from Poland, from Greece, from Israel. So when I bump into people in the streets and they say, well, what league do you play in? I say the BBL. And they say, well, no, what European league? And we say, well, we don't play in Europe. Well, if you don't play in Europe, they don't see it as the highest level. I think now, we have a chance now. We have to play against a team from Lithuania and Neptunus in a few weeks' time to try and qualify for the Champions League group stages. If we qualify for the group stages, our first home game is going to be against AEK Athens. So all of a sudden, you got these people who live in London, who come from other places, who recognize the game. They'll start coming to the game, and the game itself will start catching fire with that passion of the highest level. Because people want to see it at a high level, and I think that's the thing. Players coming through like DeAndre and some of the other guys that we have on the team. Justin Robinson is one of the best British players. Like, we brought him here 3 years ago. He was doing good things in Greece. To be able to have him come and play here inspired a lot of the young British ballers that were already playing basketball. And we brought other big names. Kevin Ware has joined us from Louisville. We've got some real talent that we're putting on the floor, and that's the kind of thing people want to see. They can see that level, they'll begin to respond. And it's for us to continue to bang the drum commercially, governmentally, as far as funding is concerned, but certainly commercially. And hopefully the TV companies can give us the opportunity, on some of their channels to get out there and show the game, because it's all about exposure. I think, Sajid, earlier on, when you started playing, that would have been around when Channel 4 maybe was showing the games and things like this. So that means that everybody at home could see the games. And when you see the games, you can't help. The game's a great game.
Yeah. Well, Vince, you got One Sports behind you, definitely, and we will try and work with you and highlight the work you're doing across the season, most definitely.
I've got one burning question for Vince. Vince, obviously I've been involved in football all my life, soccer that is. So in terms of, you've seen the Premier League, how it's evolved over the years. And also you mentioned AEK Athens, you got Barcelona, and the basketball teams are linked to the football clubs as well. And that's done a lot of good to them. How do you see that happening in the UK? London Lions, for example, linking with West Ham or somebody else maybe.
Wow. Yeah, now you're trying to set me up.
Wow.
That's a very, very interesting question. But, that has been done before and it did work. So I can name you 3 teams right off the top of my head. Manchester United used to have a football team back in the 80s. Newcastle United under Sir John Hall. That's how the Newcastle Eagles started. Yeah. And more recently, the Everton Tigers, who were run by the supporters club of the Everton Football Club. What tends to happen with the football clubs is, it's great, let's have basketball teams attached, let's have Women's Premier League and everything else. The minute the team starts to lose, that's the men's team, everybody starts saying, why are we invested in this? Why are we invested in that? So it doesn't come, the money is there, but it doesn't come from the right place. What I think we've got to do is engage the supporters of all our London clubs. Because if I can get, fans and supporters of West Ham, fans and supporters of Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, to come and support London's basketball team, then I think we'll be getting somewhere.
I mean, do you think, Vince, that we're going to need, as British basketball, more than just the London? We're going to need at least 4 or 5 teams from the BBL.
Oh, no question.
Entry,
no question.
And then also the likes of DeAndre and 10 or 15 of the guys who've played and got a resume like DeAndre to be in the UK to really give it that push.
I think that's what we need. We have some new partners here in London who are making these things happen that enables us to bring players like DeAndre. We have a huge announcement to make tomorrow about another NBA player. I think, don't forget about some of the great venues we have up and down the country. Up in Glasgow, that facility there, the Emirates Arena, is sensational. What the venues that have been built by Leicester Riders and the Newcastle Eagles are terrific. Worcester Wolves own their own venue. So we have, this is beginning to grow. I mean, for some of the fringe to high level American basketball players, if they can come and apply their trade in London or England or Leicester or Newcastle, there's no language barrier. A lot of things are very similar. That's a much better transition than maybe going to Serbia or Ukraine and places like that. So I think we're not far away. If we can get out there, win some games in this Champions League, it's going to turn a lot of heads. Yeah. And people are going to say, hang on, is the UK finally coming with basketball? And then maybe it becomes easier for us to get some better quality players to come and join DeAndre and his teammates. And that's where I think that it's on the cusp, I believe, and it's not far from being able to become fairly major sport in this country.
Well, Vince, we'll give you the opportunity now if you want to make that announcement. Breaking news here. No? Okay. All right. Well, Vince,
I thought you were going to say that.
Vince, obviously we're going to a break and we appreciate your time. One key thing, everybody watching us around the world, particularly in the Middle East and in the Indian subcontinent, I know there's a lot of big investors out there, a lot of you billionaires investing in trying to buy football clubs. Listen, come and talk to Vince, come and talk to the people here in basketball, you know, and this is where you're going to sort of come and start working with, you know, people like that.
Definitely.
So Vince, listen, appreciate that. We're going to do everything we can to help promote this. And listen, good luck with London Lions for the season. Hope everything goes well. You're doing some amazing stuff, and we're looking forward to the new signing, you know, tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Catch us up tomorrow and we'll tell you all about it.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Well, with that, guys, we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we'll hear some more fascinating news and career updates from DeAndre and Sajid. So grab a quick drink and we'll be back. Hello and welcome back to One Sports. We have a fantastic show today. We've talked about basketball here in the UK and America, and we're going to be looking into the careers of both our players who are in the studio now. Don't forget, guys, we're on Facebook Live on One Sports. If you want to leave any comments, you can do, or you can call the studio on 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline. If you've got any questions for DeAndre or Sajid about their careers, about how he's looking forward to the new season, do pick up the phone and give us a call.
Brilliant. DeAndre, let's start off with you again. Listen, we're fascinated. We're getting a lot of messages here on Facebook, Twitter. You know, they're fascinated by your career. Now, you know, in terms of as a young kid, you know, did you have that dream of wanting to become a basketball player, or was it other factors that got you into the game?
It was other factors. I mean, I grew up playing ball. My older brother, he really had a dream to make it to the NBA. So he had passed away. So after that, I kind of carried on his dream and followed his footsteps in the right direction to make it to the NBA, and it actually worked out for me.
Right, so, you know, in terms of, obviously, a young lad with a dream or trying to get into the game, how easy was it in the United States to get into the game? Did you have to go through a college route, scholarship, or how did you get into the game professionally?
You have to be good first. First off, you got to work on your game. You got a lot of talent in America, in the States. Like, everybody is really good. Everybody is really tough. So you have to work on your game consistently, repetition, and just keep working out every day. So at that point, I just kept working, and I found a niche every day to keep getting better, keep outworking the competition, and that carry you on further and further in your career.
And just the culture of basketball, and it's actually, we've played school level basketball, I've played myself, but the culture compared to here in the UK, it must be amazing. School basketball and high school basketball in America, it must be the thing to do, really.
Yeah, I mean, the culture is great. I mean, I went to Kentucky, so that's like the NBA of college.
Yeah.
So it's like really big. So it's like the culture is really big. Like at Kentucky, it's like you're in the NBA because people want your autograph. People know who you are. Like you just like a celebrity of basketball. Yeah. So it's like really big.
I think I just like to add this thing about don't underestimate what DeAndre said about the talent pool in the States. The talent pool, you know, so we'd be looking at kids who are playing Division II college. If we sent some of our senior players from here, they wouldn't match up. It'd be very difficult, but very competitive.
Is there a massive difference between the talent here
the
and
talent
the
pool
States?
out there? So I think what DeAndre's saying is that you've got this talent pool, but then you have to shine above that talent pool.
Exactly.
You have to go above and beyond in your training, in your time.
Exactly.
And the coaches here would say the same things that I'm sure the coaches say to DeAndre, stuff like, look, if you're not working, somebody else is. Somebody else is.
Exactly.
DeAndre,
Right.
you know, I'm fascinated by this because I used to work in the sports industry, so we look after football players and others. But recently, over the last probably 12 months, I'm getting a lot of interest from the United States for players wanting to come over here, and obviously want to be represented as well. What do you think sort of made that happen? You know, in terms of the interest in England.
I mean, for me personally, I want to set a trend. I'm a trendsetter. So I come, then it's like, oh, we got another announcement. Somebody else coming from the NBA tomorrow. Like Vince said, I can't tell y'all who.
You can tell us if you like.
So it's like I set a trend to get things going, to create a buzz, then things get bigger. So that's what I'm all about personally. But I think more people should follow that.
Yeah,
follow that trend.
Players like you coming into the game in England is going to create more interest from commercial partners as well.
Exactly. It's not about you hear people like they don't play in Europe competition. So what? Like I come here, it's like, oh, DeAndre Lakers going there, we're going to watch now. Another NBA player come, we're going to watch now. And that's what set things apart. That's what opened things up.
So you know, like in compared to football, we can only compare it to football because of what we're used to. It's like when players finish playing here, they go abroad to start developing football in China, in America. A lot of the footballers from here go to play in the MLS. David Beckham and so on have done it. And similarly, you're doing the same in basketball here, where you're still playing a very good level, but you're bringing the culture that you're used to in America, and you're bringing that basketball whole thing here, and that can only benefit basketball here. But for me, I think it benefits our youth because they will see, because they watch NBA. A lot of our youth watch NBA on TV and so on. But now it's bringing it to their doorstep. Basically, you're bringing that to their doorstep, which is amazing.
I think in terms of someone like DeAndre coming in, big name like that, to the English game, it's only going to do good. Yeah. How do we sort of move it on from now?
For me, I think for me, obviously being in physical education, as we both have in schools and stuff, and obviously been playing in the National League here, and so what the key message I would like DeAndre to give the youth in the UK whilst he's here, however long he stays with us, is that to genuinely make it doesn't come on a plate now. All the young children that we deal with, they want it on a plate, as you know. They really need to understand that they have to work, and they have to work very, very hard. And when sometimes working is being on the road and doing your road run. Yeah. Sometimes it's being in the gym and putting up your free throws. Sometimes it's being in the gym and working on your strength conditioning or your plyometrics or whatever it may be. All of that adds to what needs to happen. And this is the bit about going above and beyond. And now I know Vince has built that in London and some of the London teams, and I've also seen it in the places like Newcastle, Glasgow. Fantastic setups. When DeAndre goes to compete with these guys, he's going to know he's going to be in a game with those particular teams that have really worked hard to establish professionalism within basketball. It's not just rock up, put your Jordans on and do your thing. There's real professionalism. I know when I was around at the time, we had our 5 days a week training and then 2 days in the gym as well, and so on and so forth. The amount of sports science is now that's involved in the game and so on. So all these elements, I believe, our young people playing basketball need to embrace. Yeah, so not just the basketball bit, but all the thing that comes with it to become that person to play at the level that DeAndre has.
And on that, DeAndre, at the moment you're training ready for the season in September. What's your training schedule like now? You're training every day, 2 times a day?
We train Monday through Saturday. Got a day off Sunday.
Yeah. And how many hours are you training each day?
Around 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Okay. So that's just court stuff? That's a gym work as well?
That's court. Pre-game stretches, all that type of stuff.
Dan, how does it compare to obviously playing in the NBA and the whole regime here in England? How does that compare to the NBA?
Playing overseas is harder than playing in the NBA. I think most players can tell you that.
Yeah.
But I've always been a hard worker, so it don't really affect me. So I'm all about the hard work, and that's how I get to next levels, and that's why I open up more opportunities for me by working hard.
As a professional sports person, regardless, we're all sort of human beings. Coming from, another country, coming here to England, it could be in any country. It can be very difficult, isn't it? The culture is different. Your friends, family, all you left behind. How do you cope with that one?
To me, it's been like a shutdown, like coronavirus. So to me, I synced my family enough that now I could just move forward and focus on what I need to focus on. Since I got an opportunity now, so that's the main thing with me.
Okay, and you played obviously with a few big names as well. You're a big name yourself. Played with a few in the United States. I think I got seen a picture with you, LeBron James.
Oh yeah.
Kobe Bryant as well.
Kobe Bryant as well. Yeah.
Oh, shame.
How does it, inspire the youngsters? Obviously LeBron is probably the highest paid sports person in the world. He's a sort of minority shareholder for my football team, Liverpool FC as well. But he's doing a lot of good work behind the scenes. How did you get inspired by the likes of LeBron, Kobe Bryant and people like that?
It's just something that it took a while for me to process. Once I got in the locker room with them, they invited me to training camp, and I made the team through training camp. So it took a while for me to process it. But when I got on the court with them and I got used to being on the court with them, it's kind of got normal for me, and I'm so competitive that my juices start flowing. And it was just like, oh, this is just LeBron. But it's just like, I still have a job to do and a role to play. So that's how I kind of took it.
Very professional. I mean,
So you played small forward, shooting guard, is that right?
Yeah, small forward. Yeah.
So, amazing.
Saj, what position did you play?
I play shooting guard. I basically, like I told you, I was a big guy when I first started playing like this, like I am now. So I just set screens and boxed out. That was all I ever did
Okay.
for the first 2-3 years. And then obviously as I started to lose my weight and become more mobile and started to play at a slightly higher level and so on and so forth, it just happened so quickly for me. And then, I'll be honest with you, it was when I came to Birmingham. I came to Birmingham and the physicality of the game in Birmingham was a lot more than up north. Don't ask me why, it just was more physical.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if that's like going from Chicago to, I don't know, New York, whether there's a change in style of play or whatever. It was just so much more.
Kind of similar.
Yeah, it was just more physical. So I learned to shoot because I couldn't deal with these big guys until I was getting beat up. So I just learned to shoot a three-pointer, and that's what I became. I became a three-point shooter.
and Leandro, you've played across the United America. You've played in Dallas, you played in Miami, you played in Orlando. What's been the highlight of your career playing in the NBA, and which team? Because you've played for quite a few there.
My highlight of my career is with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's just like I played my best basketball there, and I felt like on one of the best teams in the NBA at that time. I just felt great. I mean, I had Coach Tyrone Lue gave me a great opportunity to start 19 games. I played well. I think I kind of slacked off at the end, wasn't consistent enough to really stick. But I thought that was my best overall year with the Cavs.
How do you cope with the pressures, DeAndre? You know, obviously mentally, physically as well. You know, in the game, you know, there's a lot of pressure from the media, from your fans. You know, how do you cope with all of that? Is it easier in London? Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I'm a even tone guy. I mean, you can't no media, nothing really get to me. I kind of stay to myself, focus on the task at hand, and go about my business.
Amazing. You played in Europe as well?
Yeah.
What was the best experience you had in Europe? Obviously now you come to the UK, so UK side, the best experience you had in Europe?
I mean, I played in Greece. I like Greece a lot.
Yeah.
I love Greece.
Competitive.
I love the city.
Greece, yeah.
The weather's a little bit different to the UK.
Yeah, I love the water. So Greece is a big deal to me. I really love it.
So how long have you been playing abroad away from America now?
This is like my second year in a row.
Second year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
In terms of obviously the forthcoming season with London Lions, you know, what's your expectations? You know, what's the ambitions? Are you going for the league again, Champions League?
Yeah, we're going. That's the goal to get to the Champions League, to really get out there, really be noticeable, really get people to look at us and open some eyes and we got to do that by winning. We have to win. We have to beat great competition in order to do that. And I have no problem with that because I'm up for the task.
Yeah. The other thing, DeAndre, obviously, and I'll come back to you and Saj as well on that one. We got obviously a lot of lack of Asian players in basketball. There might be the usual stereotypes about we're not, you know, sort of physically strong enough or tall enough for basketball. You know, how can you encourage the Asian community, especially in England, to take up the game?
I mean, just you got to outwork your opponent. No matter if you're tall, short, you really have to. It's all about work. If you don't work, it don't matter if you're tall, short, or whatever size. If you don't work and give yourself a chance, then you have no chance. It's about giving yourself a chance and outworking your competition.
Yeah, and I'd add to that by saying exactly the same, and be good at what you do. You know, become technical. You know, there's this whole thing about good footwork. You know, sometimes you can have a great athlete, but if his footwork isn't great, you can get him off balance very quickly. So I, being probably the slowest player on my team, could move people just by using this one jab step. You know, it was just I just became very technical at what I did. I became a technical spot-up shooter. You know, it's just very straightforward. So I'm talking technical jargon, but just meaning I stood in a corner, I'd let somebody like DeAndre go and do what he's got to do, and I'd be there if he needed me. So I'd just be in the right spot for him to be able to pass that ball without it being intercepted so I could take the shot.
Saj, you know, obviously basketball, I love sports, so does Abdul, we all do. But basketball is a sport I love because it's, you know, very fast-paced, it's exciting. You know, how do we get to sort of watch more of it on TV? So obviously, with the Premier League and Sky getting more involved.
Yeah, I mean,
how
look,
do we influence that?
I mean, as Vince said, back in the day, it was on Channel 4, mainstream. It was big, and it became big, and you know, it just, you know, everybody knew the players' names. The buzz was there, and I think that's how a lot of people in those years got into it. Then, obviously, like I said, it's had its peaks and troughs. So I think the BBL and the managers and people like Vince need to go and talk to some of these big guys and get it on. But you know, at this day and age, there's no excuse, because there's cameras, there's Facebook, there's Instagram. You can get these games on, you know, and get them showcased, if that makes sense. So people can go and find them if they need to, and maybe that's a channel that we need to start pushing more, using the social media channels to ensure people are watching until the big, you know, YouTube and so on, until the big channels go, yeah, okay, look, there's a viewership here, we need to get involved, you know.
And just on that, you know, you've both played and you've watched. Who were the players that you looked up to when you were starting your career, and who were the players that you watched and wanted to be like when you started your careers? Sajid, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, mine start with my coaches. These are people who were big in UK basketball, and they inspired me to kind of take up the game. But at my time, Michael Jordan, man, just the guy was phenomenal. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, Andrew?
I looked up to Kevin Garnett. It's not more of his talent. Why? It's his energy, what he brings to the game, his passion he brings to the game. It's just watching him play, like, give me tingles in my body. Like, he really, that's emotional. That's like, he's just a great all-around winner. So, and then rub off on his teammates. So, that's I really look up to KG. Even now, even when he's not playing, I just like to watch him talk now and all that type of stuff. That's a great role model for me.
So Daniel, when did you start playing? What age did you start playing?
I started playing around 15, 16.
Okay.
I mean, I was playing it as a young child, but it wasn't like serious. I didn't have no aspiration of making it to the NBA. My older brother did.
In America, the street basketball is huge, isn't it? You've got courts everywhere in every estate, every street. You have the courts, and the street basketball is big. How many of them street basketball players actually move on to high school or get scholarships and go on to playing league basketball?
Not many, because many is they good, they talented, they go to the park and they play like, oh, this guy can make it. But they probably selling drugs when they done playing, or they probably don't have a mom and dad who can teach them the ropes of taking the next step to making it, or pushing them out of a bad environment. So I credit my grandma for pushing me out and moving and having me see something different, and to give me an outlet to another path, and that's to move to the next step of playing high school ball. Now playing college ball, all because she moved me to a better environment. So I credit my grandma for that.
And is there anything set up in America? I know Vince is trying to do that here in the UK with the academy and so on and so forth. Is there anything that the NBA is doing, like a foundation or anything, to get these guys from the parks and the streets to go in and make a career out of it? Because I know many of these street guys who play street basketball wouldn't be able to play at NBA level.
I'm really not sure about that, but I'm sure like the NBA tries so hard to really do what's best for players and give players opportunity, give unprivileged kids a privilege to do something or take the next step to be better.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, you know, Kobe and his foundation did a lot of work, didn't they, with underprivileged kids, and a lot of the NBA players, a lot of them do something, whether it be in America. So I think the guys that are from America do something usually through a foundation or through their team they play with.
You see NBA players like have camps in their neighborhoods and stuff like that. And block parties, stuff like that, positive stuff so kids can see that they can make it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
D Wade is another one. I think he does a lot right within the community. So I think there's a lot of good initiatives happening out there, and I think not only that, I think a lot of the NBA players, to be fair, to the likes of DeAndre and people like himself, they've also gone out and taken it into Europe and Africa and so on. Because I know about the Africa camps, and there's actually an Africa NBA game that happens, you know, out there. So there's a lot of stuff happening internationally through the help of NBA.
Vince was mentioning earlier on before we came on the show that they've got an academy in India.
That's amazing.
a basketball academy in India, which is amazing to think
Yeah,
that
and the NBA,
you know you have it.
I'm sorry, and the NBA really reaching out to India and bringing them, trying to bring them back, and they watching young kids now. They scouting them now, so when they get to an age, they bring them over here and they become good, and they have to give them an opportunity.
I mean, traditionally, the stereotyping thought is that NBA is just an America game and it's in America and it's for kids from America. But to go out to Asia now and start counting, they're really spreading their wing, which is fantastic news.
We've been to Ghana with some of the work we did, and it was very popular in Ghana, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
So
Senegal, huge.
yeah.
Basketball is huge in Senegal.
Yeah.
But you'll never know it. You know, there's about 1,000,001 DeAndres in Senegal. I'm telling you.
Saj, I'm going to ask you a question. 'Cause obviously, when I grew up, you know, the likes of Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were very influential. So even though basketball wasn't massive compared to the United States and England, you know, these are the guys actually influenced people like myself. You know, not just as basketball players, but as human beings. You know, how can we do that? You know, get more basketball players from the NBA coming here, because we've got similar challenges. You know, growing up in even just in East London, you know, in the capital
Do you want
states.
to tell us when that was? 20 years ago?
Listen,
30
I'm
years ago?
still young. I'm still young.
I mean, I would say there's been some fantastic role models in the UK game. Nigel Lloyd, Tony Dorsey, fabulous Flournoy, that's a real name by the way, you know, who went on to manage Newcastle and so on. And he came from the Bronx as a street baller, by the way. He was a street baller in the old And One videos. He used to play in the, so there's been some great guys who have come, showcased their talents and also rubbed off on a lot of people. And that's why a lot more of our UK youth are making that journey to high school or college in America, because that is now, it's kind of, those fruits are being not what's the term's gone out of my head, but they're kind of making that decision now. They've had that influence and now they're going out to the States to kind of develop themselves further. What will happen now with the likes of DeAndre coming and other announcements that are about to happen, and the likes of having a Hall of Famer sat in Birmingham, Hakeem Olajuwon, this is just going to take it to the next level. I work in Birmingham. Hakeem is there. He's a Hall of Famer. He was the Dream. They used to call him, that was his nickname, the Dream. Played at the time, Michael Jordan. And the amount of kids now that come to his camp from all over Europe to come to his camp in the UK. This is just going to bring the best of the best players together, who are going to develop together, and then hopefully those fruits will grow into whatever they need to be.
And before we finished, we're coming to the end of the show very fast. DeAndre, apart from looking forward to the season with London Lions, which I'm sure it's going to be an amazing season, what's your aspiration in the future? Are you going to get into coaching, management in the game?
I'm still too young for that.
I had my mind set on being a defensive coach, so a coach overall, but a defensive-minded coach. It's like a Tom Thibodeau, how he started off with Boston, and things like that. Lawrence Frank with the Clippers, like a defensive-minded coach. So that's what I want to be. It don't matter where I start, high school. It doesn't matter as long as I start. So that's my goal, to be a coach after basketball.
One thing I have to ask you, I know it's a bit controversial at the moment because we've been dealing with it. Obviously, in terms of the lack of opportunities in this country with the Black Lives Matter movement, we've got to keep the momentum up. Do you think this is going to be taken seriously in terms of getting more black coaches, not just into the NBA, but obviously into sports in general? Do you see that happening, in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it should happen. I think everybody deserves opportunity, no matter what color skin they are. I think it's only right. Everybody deserves a chance and an opportunity to achieve something. So that would be a great deal if more black coaches get hired.
Yeah, definitely.
Saj, obviously we're talking about bringing the Rooney Rule here in England. Is it going to work in England?
Yeah, why not? It should work. And bringing these caliber players in, open up coaching opportunities. I'll say one thing about basketball. I don't see basketball in the UK that sees colour.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced it. I've never seen that side of the issue. That kind of that other sports potentially face, the institutional issues that they face, or institutional racism. I don't see it in UK basketball. UK basketball is very open. I've played with kids from every background you can imagine. Earlier on, Vince mentioned a few names whilst we were off camera. One was a Chinese lad, one was a black lad, the Asian lad. We could rattle them off. One was from the Caribbean. You know, we were from
Very
all over the
diverse,
place.
yeah.
So I've never faced it in basketball. I've faced it in other sports because I've played a bit of hockey and volleyball in the UK, but never in basketball. So that's one thing I love about the game, that it doesn't matter where you're from, you come in, you're a team, and you get on with it. And I'm pretty sure that's what DeAndre's seeing on
DeAndre,
Facebook.
any last words before we go?
I appreciate y'all bringing me on the show. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about my opportunity. I'm excited about the London Lions and what we are trying to achieve. And hopefully we can do this again.
Fantastic. Thank you, DeAndre. Thank you, Saj.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. You know, if you're still watching, hopefully we're going to bring you on the show again. You know, and everybody else, thanks for watching. If you want to get involved, if you need more information, commercial partners, business partners, please get in touch with us, because these are your guys. You know, and as you said, you know, basketball is really popular, exciting sport. Get involved, and thanks for joining us.
And don't forget, 15th of September, is it? See, 15th of September is the first game, London Lions. So they're only in the Olympic Park. Those of you who are in London.
Are we allowed to go to the games in basketball yet, or we
No,
don't?
not yet.
Oh, it's going to be closed.
Oh,
Of course,
yeah.
it's going to be closed doors for now. But hopefully by the time September comes, we might be having some changes.
But watch it on Facebook or wherever else you can find it.
Of course. Okay, but until then, guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night. See you later.